Good morning, Utsada.
Namaste, Ajay Bhai. Do you hear me clearly today?
A little bit. I think, there's a little bit of adjustment you still need to do. We can work on it a little later. You have to put your mic standing up, not at the angle. There you go. Perfect. A little bit more. Little bit more.
So, yeah, I have a new mic and an expensive one. So,
and you have to still a little bit back. You have to go a little bit back because there's some echo. Here you go. Okay. And a little bit more you have to make the mic a little bit more standing up.
Okay,
the other way around.
This is the most it can.
Now you go. There you go. Okay. Now you got it.
Okay, good. Now I'm.
Now you sound like your natural self.
Now I sound like my natural self and more.
And more. Exactly. And you have a new camera as well, right? So you come.
I have a new camera as well. So it's.
So you're no longer in 3D. You're in 4D.
I always was,
So that I want to, I think we have enough banter. So let me just introduce. People don't even know what this is, right? And people are just signing on. So let's do the introductions. This is HinduLounge. HinduLounge is the weekly live show, a call-in show actually, where everyone can call in and participate in a discussion on contemporary American Hindu issues. And it is brought to you by HinduPact. HinduPact is a policy research and advocacy initiative of World Hindu Council of America, or WHPA. And with me, I'm Ajit Sahi. I'm the president of WHPA, and with me is every week is Utsav Chakrabarti, and Utsav Chakrabarti is the executive director of HinduPact. And we come live every week on Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And we always have a unique tune that is created just for us for that week by Decibels. And you just heard the tune. If you missed it towards the end of the show, we will play the tune again. So, with that, Utsada, I want to welcome you, and I want to, I want to actually introduce the subject a little bit and then give you an opportunity to welcome everyone. So today, Utsada, even though this was the week where we had a celebration of Ram Navami, we had a Mahavir Jayanti, and we also had the USCIRF report. So please, uh, welcome everyone and tell us what is USCIRF, what is the report that they generate, and why are we talking about it, right? So, Utsada, over to you, and please take us walk us through the whole thing, and welcome everyone. And uh, we are missing Maya Durga, but I'm uh, but over to you.
Thank you, Ajay Bhai, and welcome everybody. So this week's topic is the USCIRF report, or the USCIRF stands for United States Council for International Religious Freedom. So this is a semi-government body, I should say, because it doesn't have the mandate to implement any of its any of its suggestions, any of its recommendations. It's a quasi government body, if I can, for a better word. And but it can make suggestions. It can make suggestions to the lawmakers, it can make suggestions to the State Department, it can make suggestions to whoever is in a position either in the legislative or the executive branch to take decisions. So uh, that is the background of the United States Council for International Religious Freedom, USCIRF. But uh, what is interesting about this body is that the members of these bodies are elected, actually it's selected by lawmakers from both political parties, and as well as by the president and members of his cabinet, with suggestion from members of his cabinet. So it is a pretty high profile body. It has historically been one, but historically it has been creating a trend for itself. So today we are going to look at the USCIRF report for the year 2021. It came out on April 21st, which was a couple of days ago. And we will analyze what the report says and who are the people behind the report and what they are thinking and why they are thinking. And the why is the most important part here, because we'll just peel off a little bit of layers of those individuals and their agendas and their backgrounds. And obviously, India being a country where 90% of the world's Hindu population resides, including most of the families of many of the Hindus who are in the diaspora in America, we will focus on India in this particular analysis today. And how we also focus on India because there is a in the Hindu American community, most people are from Indian origin, and it affects how they are treated in America because of their ethnicity as well. So that's going to be the overall idea of this week's conversation, and we will go in piece by piece and kind of deconstruct this year's report and why it is the way it is.
So the let me introduce this this term that USCIRF is used, and I would like you to kind of tell us what that term means. The term that they have used for India is country of particular concern, okay, CPC. And last year they tried to designate that, they recommended that US government designate India as a country of particular concern. This year again they've added and said that we recommend that India be considered a country of particular concern. So what does a country of particular concern, CPC designation, mean, and who is in the August company with India?
Right. So a CPC designation is actually probably one of the worst designations you can have in their playbook. And in the recent past, they have been declaring India a country of particular concern. What they recommend is that this means that there is systemic intolerance against minorities. There is ongoing and egregious religious freedom violation. And it is against the actions of the country are against the International Religious Freedom Act. And what it entails is that recommendations entail for countries of particular concern is that they are asking the US government to put sanctions on individuals and groups who they feel are responsible. So this is a pretty serious allegation on any country. And, it is unfortunate that they have been targeting India on that, but and we are going to get into it. But this year they have again, mentioned India as a particular country of particular concern, and India, unfortunately, has been put in the company of Myanmar, which they, for whatever reason, still call Burma. I don't know why. And Eritrea, and Iran, Nigeria, North Korea, Pakistan. Obviously, we expect Pakistan to be in that list. Russia, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Vietnam. This
Wow.
is the country of particular
So,
concerns.
so they're saying that India has the same amount of religious freedom as Pakistan, where a Hindu or a Christian girl, a teenager, or even sometimes as as in case of yesterday, a girl who is 12-year-old gets who is a Hindu gets kidnapped, and there are thousand of these a year, so three a day, gets kidnapped and forcibly converted and gets married off to a much older person. And they're even even anyone can say that a particular person committed blasphemy, and basically that's a death sentence. It doesn't have to be verified. There's no rule of law, and India is in the same category. India is in the same category as a country where if you are a Hindu, you cannot even be cremated or buried as in Saudi Arabia. So India is in the same category as these lawless, or either lawless in case of Pakistan, or a very religious, religiously oppressive country, and India has been put in the same category as these countries,
That's
or
correct.
in a
That's
category
correct.
of
Where
a
in
country.
India, despite being around 2 to 3% of the population, you have all the Christian holidays being celebrated with official government holidays. You have, despite being 15-14% of the population, you have all Islamic holidays that even Islamic countries don't celebrate, like Miladul Nabi being declared as state government holidays. So we are going to get into that. But there's another list that we need to watch out for, and this is the list of countries which are special watch list countries. So these are countries which are slightly better than India. And let me give you the names of those countries. In the views of USCIRF, these countries are actually better than India. And in that list, special watch list starts with Afghanistan. Okay, it's much better than India on religious freedom issues. Pun intended here. Algeria, Azerbaijan. Just last year, Azerbaijan wiped out an entire region of Armenia and killed thousands of people and destroyed thousands of churches. Cuba, Egypt, Indonesia, Iraq, country which still has pockets of ISIS operating in it. Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Nicaragua, Turkey, another interesting country. Just last year, transformed a historical church, the Hagia Sophia, extremely important church for the Eastern European community, into a mosque after 100 years. So that country is actually better than India. Actually, Turkey also supports Al Qaeda in Syria and northern Syria and
Yeah.
southern Armenia. So yeah, and of course Uzbekistan. So
Yeah.
You can see, I mean, you can see a pattern of countries here that actually Afghanistan and Turkey stand out, especially because for most people who watch, and Malaysia, of course, who are actually being given a status better than India. And those who live in India or have families back home, or those who follow Indian politics, Indian society, Indian social issues with authentic information from India, obviously can see where this is going. I exclude the people who follow India by reading Western news, because I think newspapers like New York Times and Washington Post and these kinds of media outlets are the reason why there is this kind of a narrative where India is a particular country of particular concern.
And also the interesting part is that this has really no impact in India, right? I mean, India is a democratic country where over 1.25 billion people follow, whatever faith they want, and all faiths are respected in India. People in India really truly believe in much more than secularism. They actually believe in Sarvadharma Sambhav, which means that all religions are treated, all faiths are treated equally. And the people who live in India, if you were to go to, say, a remote village in Uttar Pradesh, or if you go to even a city in, Bengal or Gujarat or Maharashtra, if you go into Mumbai, for example, how many people even know what is USCIRF, and how many people really care about it? Or if you go to the policy making, functions in Indian government, I don't think Indian government really, bows down to the, USCIRF report and say, oh, what do we do now to, now that we have been designated as country of special, country of particular concern. The government of India is committed to Indian constitution, and Indian constitution requires, and which emanates out of Hindu dharma, requires equal treatment for all people of all faiths. And that is, so it has absolutely no meaning to people who live in India. This report is really not meant to, for people in India. It is meant for people who live in America, Hindus who live in America. The real impact is so that on people who live, the Hindus who live in America. We said that when we released, we talked about the 2020 report when it was released. And what we said was that this is the kind of report that is meant to, for Hindus in America to go on defensive, for Hindus in America or people of Indian origin in America to actually, start talking about why Hindu dharma does not, discriminate, and so basically a lot of education to people who are not Hindus. And this is the kind of stuff that can really lead to, for people who don't understand it, and people who get swept up by the innuendos and the allegations in this report, people who are non-Hindus would take this opportunity to then do also physical violence against Hindus and Indians in America. So there is, there are much deeper implications of this report in America, on Hindus in America, than it is on India or Hindus in India or Indians in India. So, Utsada, what do you think?
So I just want to add that, in when you said that India is not really impacted by this, it is correct, and that is also one of the reasons why India has not even given legitimacy to the USCIRF report. In fact, India has said that the commissioners of USCIRF visiting India is also not welcome, because they see a pattern of biased targeting in this. So India has actually officially said that this is not even accurate information, and these people already have malintent to malign India, so they are actually not even welcome to India. So that is one of the things that India has done. But you are absolutely right. The content of this report actually impacts American Hindu communities, because it creates a record, a one-sided record, I must say, because there is no rebuttal, there is no formal rebuttal coming on against this, unless some of the commissioners themselves rebut it in their comments, which has happened in the past. So this is something that has repercussions for the American Hindu communities, especially the Hindu communities who are of Indian origin, because it will impact their future generations as being from a country or being from an ancestry, a religion, which is now being presented year after year, at least over the past 2 years, in a very, very concerning way. And as we will see later on, not in really a truthful manner as well.
So now let's look at the people who are the commissioners of the USCIRF commission. The commissioners, here's a list of commissioners, right? So the chair, and I actually, we put both, right? We put the name of the commissioner and who the commissioner was appointed by. These are the 3-year terms, if I'm not mistaken. You can see that here are a mix of people, some of them appointed by the Senate majority leader, some of them appointed by the Republican House majority, at that time the majority leader, and there are some appointees. I think a third of the appointees actually come from the President of the United States. So then let's go over what we know. What do we know about these commissioners?
So I wanted to actually show the names of these commissioners and then show the map of the countries that are in the worst, bad boy list, and kind of draw a pattern out of it. So if you look at the map here, if you look at the names of the commissioners here, you see that, obviously Gail Manchin by Senator Charles Schumer, Democrat, head of the Senate Democratic Party, leads the Democratic Party in the Senate. And then you have Tony Perkins, which is Mitch McConnell appointee, again, Senate Minority Leader. Then you have Anurima Bhargava, and this name is important because she is originally of Indian origin and most likely considers herself Hindu. I'm not sure if she does, but I'm assuming that she does here. But she certainly is of Indian origin, and that she cannot deny. And she's appointed by Nancy Pelosi. Gary Bauer, who was appointed by Donald Trump. James Carr, again, Kevin McCarthy, House Minority Leader now, prior to that Majority Leader at one point. Frederick Davy, Charles Schumer again, Nadine Menza. This is an important appointee because Nadine Menza has a special focus on Middle East, especially the religious minority communities in the Middle East. And I mentioned that here because I'll come back to that at some point later. And Johnny Moore, again, a Trump appointee. Very interesting again, because Johnny Moore is the only commissioner who actually gave a dissenting note against India being designated as a country of particular concern. So that is something to note. He is a Christian, strong Christian background, evangelist background, but a Trump appointee as well. And then you have Nuri Turkel, who is again a Nancy Pelosi House Majority Leader appointee. So you see that there is a trend in these appointments. Though there is the token Indian American Anurima Bhargava in there, most of these appointees come from a strong church-focused Christian background. Most of them. And if you bring up the map of the countries that are in concern here, you will see a pattern here. So if you see this map and you can see which part of the world has this bad boy listing, it's the countries of particular concern and special watch list countries. 90% of them are in Asia. And most of them, if you see by population numbers, are non-Christian countries. There is the smattering of Islamic countries. Obviously, they officially discriminate against religious minorities, so it's hard to keep them out of the list. But they still managed to keep Qatar out of that list. Qatar is known to be funding Al-Qaeda in the Middle East and ISIS in the Middle East.
Well, there's a US base there, so there's no reason to
There's a huge US military base there, so obviously Qatar doesn't.
There's no reason to put them on the list.
Yeah, and so it's very interesting how these things work. But as you can see from the map,
I think they cover Russia. They cover Christianity by putting Russia on the list.
They cover Christianity by putting Russia in there, but Russia is a Christian, Orthodox Christian country. And if you see the history of Christianity, Orthodox Christian is really the stepchild of Christianity at this point of time. Actually, it has been the stepchild of Christianity since the 13th, 14th century, since Ottoman Empire came in, because, just to travel back in time and give you one nugget of history. The Orthodox Church was thrown under the bus by the so-called Western Christian denomination, primarily the Catholics and the Protestants, when they saw that, hey, you know what, we need to contain the Ottoman expansion of Islamists in the West, in traveling to the west of Europe. Let's just throw the Eastern Orthodox Church under the bus. So they kind of left them on their own and fend themselves against the Turkish Islamists. So, since then, around the 14th, 15th century, there has been a little bit of a historical bad blood in Europe and East and Eurasia between the different denominations of Christianity. And, for people who are observers of geopolitics and history, you will see that come out very clearly during the Serbian, Croatian, and Bosnian conflict. It was clearly divided along Western Christianity working with Islam to defeat Eastern Orthodox Church. That's a very interesting nugget.
I want to know. So I want to know in how many of these countries that are in yellow or gray, which is countries which are on the special watch list, or countries that are there where it is designated there's a freedom of religion. How many of these countries can you actually go and build mandirs and practice Hindu dharma without anyone impeding on your rights? It'd be great to make a list of those countries. So, for example, if I were to go and to Azerbaijan and build a mandir, what would be the reaction? If I were to go to Uzbekistan and build a mandir, versus if anyone from Azerbaijan or Uzbekistan were to use proper channels and give money to a legitimate organization in India to build a mosque, or people from United States who plant churches all over India, you know, who's stopping anyone? And here it is, a country that allows full freedom, and in terms of practicing the faith, is listed as a country of particular concern. So now that you mentioned the names of the commissioners, I want to go deeper into the report, but first let's just analyze the people behind it. So once we analyze the people behind this report, I think we'll have a better understanding of why the report says what it says. So let's talk about some of the people who are behind this report.
Before you go there, Ajay, I just wanted to make one note here of a country that's missing from any of this. It's Bangladesh, and we should.
Why is that? Why is Bangladesh missing?
So that is for people to understand and judge, like, why is Bangladesh missing from this list? Because Bangladesh has a record. If you're going to put India as a particular country of particular concern, there's no reason why I don't see Bangladesh as a particular country of particular concern, because every day there is violence against religious minorities in Bangladesh. And it may not be government sanctioned all the time.
And we had Priya Saha now on the show twice, and she has, she cannot even go back to Bangladesh just because she made public the condition of minorities in Bangladesh, right?
That's correct. So I just wanted to bring that out here, and then we can move on now to look at the commissioners and who those commissioners are and what their background is.
Yeah, so let's look at this. And I am so that I'm going to get this into full screen mode. Let me know if you can see this, so that people can actually see, and as you're analyzing. So this is a report that came out on the same day as the USCIRF report that came out. This is a report by an organization called Disinfo Lab. Disinfo Lab, earlier came out with a report that said that the government of India, and through its various functions, was running a couple of 100,000 fake Twitter accounts and trying to create, a buzz on pro-India issues using these fake Twitter accounts. So this is an and it was widely reported in Dawn, which is a Pakistani newspaper, The News, which is a Pakistani newspaper, and several other Pakistani newspapers, and Prime Minister rather of Pakistan, Imran Khan, actually referred to Disinfo Lab by name. So this is a credible organization, because it has been, even Pakistan actually attested to the honesty and integrity of this organization. Now, this organization came out with a report on USCIRF and the members of USCIRF, and this report gained a lot of traction. In fact, it is the lot of commentary on it as to what are the connections between the commissioners, some of the commissioners rather, in USCIRF and organizations that are very closely linked to for lack of a better word, uh, militant Islam, like Islamic Circle of North America, or IAMC, which is Indian American Muslim Council. So that I walk us through this.
So, I think whoever, work, I don't know if Disinfo Lab is based out of Europe. It looks like it's based out of Europe, or at least part of their
I think that's what Imran Khan
yeah,
and
yeah. So
the
it's so
Pakistani newspapers said, that they're based in Europe.
correct. So whoever has prepared this obviously has gone through a lot of detailed analysis and information gathering, and has done, so I don't know if they are supportive of India on this issue or not supportive of India on this issue. In this particular one, they seem to be supportive, but they have made reports against Indian government on occasion as well. But I have to congratulate them for this effort, because this is literally a playbook, piece by piece playbook of how this entire initiative is run and how it targets countries like India, specifically India. So, you will see in this that there are members, commissioners of USCIRF who are actually directly working for lobbyist firms that are hired by Islamic Circle of North America, that are hired by Islamic groups that are lobbying on behalf of radical organizations like IAMC, who have, as you can see in this, through Sheikh Ubaid, through ICNA, have connections to actual terrorist organizations like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Hizbul Mujahideen, which are, banned terrorist organizations from the Indian subcontinent. You also see a role of front groups like Quill Foundation and Doto Database, who are actually playing, a pseudo repository of information and analysis and transfer of funds from organizations like Open Society Foundation and so, there is
So that you went, you were the way you're narrating it, it was a narration to an expert, because you mentioned some names and you mentioned some organizations, but for the uninitiated, what is this? So tell us a little bit, give us a little bit of more basic background information. So when you talk about, because there's only so much you can glean from the picture, right? So you mentioned, so for example, Sheikh Ubaid, or you mentioned, we mentioned IAMC or things like that, right? Give us a little bit more background as to, why are these people in this picture, in this, in this diagram, and why are they important, or
okay. No,
what
you're
role do they
absolutely
play?
right. I mean, I'm assuming that our listeners have heard of IAMC or
Assume that
ICNA.
most people don't even know what
Yeah, yeah,
IAMC
yeah. No,
is.
you are absolutely right. I should not assume that people know about these organizations. So let me take a step back. So the key organizations to study here, to know the background of this pattern, are organizations like SIMI, Student Islamic Movement of India, and what it did in the Indian subcontinent over the last 2 decades, especially until 2013, 2014, from 2002 to 2014. That's one organization to look after. It's Student Islamic Movement of India. Okay. Another organization to look after and try to study more about, Islamic Circle of North America. So I'm naming these names because these are key nodal points and key nodal organizations that have played a significant role in influencing the report on India this year and in the last couple of years. So Islamic Circle of North America. People should research this organization and the role it has and its connection to Jamaat-e-Islami, which is Muslim Brotherhood of the Indian subcontinent. Jamaat-e-Islami literally translates in Persian as Muslim Brotherhood. And its connection to terrorist organizations like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Hizbul Mujahideen. So ICNA, Islamic Circle of North America, is another nodal organization to study. Another nodal organization to study is Free Kashmir or Save India, which is, very ironically named organization, uh, and the connection of two individuals, Angana Chatterjee and Ghulam Nabi Fai. These names, if you
Now, Ghulam
haven't,
Nabi Fai is the convicted spy, right?
so Ghulam Nabi Fai spent 2 years in an American jail for money laundering accusations, among other things, that he was blamed for from receiving funds from Pakistan's dreaded intelligence agency, the ISI. And he, along with that, Angana Chatterjee, who's a professor and a known leftist activist of Indian origin in the West Coast, was also, connected to him, and therefore, because she received money from him. Uh, so, so these are the names we need to look after. Another name that we need to look here in this list is Ajit Sahi. Now, Ajit Sahi, who is now in America, lobbying at the Capitol Hill every day against India, has direct connection to Students Islamic Movement of India. He was actually an operative on their behalf back 15 years ago in India. So, and then again, there's one more nodal point I missed, which is the Open Society Foundation. As you all know, can you move back one slide,
Yeah,
Ajay?
sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Open Society Foundation is a very well known, one of the largest philanthropic organization in the world, led by a very left-leaning New York billionaire named George Soros. Only problem is that Open Society Foundation and George Soros have been on record targeting India and the current Prime Minister of India as being fascist. So, so and Open Society Foundation in this case works directly with one of the the only Indian origin commissioners, which is Anurima Bhargava. Again, another person to look after in this list is a former Pakistani diplomat named Akbar Ahmed, who is also working as an advisor to USCIRF in through 1 degree of separation. Harrison Akins is the guy in between. So, I mean, as I said, Ajay bhai, when we put up this list together and this map, that this map literally is a 1 hour conversation in itself. And we can all see how the network has been put together. One notable thing that comes out from all these nodal points and nodal individuals is that there is a trend of American Islamic organizations collecting money in the name of promoting the human rights of Uyghur Muslims in China and Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. So these are the two, hot button issues that concern the
So
Islamic.
that I don't want to I don't I would rather not go into the financial part of it as much, because at this stage that would be somewhat of a speculation as to which money is used where and all that.
Okay.
And we want to be, we want to make sure that we point out how people are connected
Correct.
and leave the money part a little bit out of it, because I'm sure one of these days, Disinfo Lab or someone else who is going to expose that, and once they they expose it, then we can go into it in more detail. But we would rather just stay
No, the
with
reason I
published
mentioned
facts.
the reason, because in the events where these issues are being discussed for fundraising, the issue of India, the issue of CA, the issue of Kashmir are brought up
Yeah.
in the narration, in the projects itself, in the events itself, as issues for which Muslims around America should be active, should be
Yeah,
agitating.
yeah, and but interesting part is, so that I think there are people here who are non-Muslims, but they seem to go and give talks in uh, in various Islamic forums to talk about they talk about India and about Hindus. And of all people, the vice chair of the commission, who is a token representative of Hindus, Anurima Bhargava. What is she doing giving a talk to some of the Islamic groups about human rights in India, when she does not come to a Hindu group such as World Hindu Council of America or Hindu Pact and give a talk about the concerns that she has come across in her role as the vice chair of the USCIRF, concerns about the treatment of Hindus in Pakistan, treatment of Hindus in Afghanistan, where Sikhs were killed last year. Hindus have been driven out. Concerns about Hindus in Bangladesh, concerns about Hindus and how they are treated in some of the Middle Eastern countries. Why is she silent on that?
Well, so that is the interesting thing, that if you look at this network, you see the lobbying from Fidelis Government Relations. And once you look into the activities of Fidelis Government Relations and who are the ones who are giving them lobbying contracts, you will see that individuals like Anurima Bhargava, individuals like Nadine Menza, and remember, I mentioned Nadine Menza before because she's a very strong voice and activist for the minority communities in the Middle East, especially the Yazidis and the Assyrian Christians. Uh, and that's where all fine and dandy, and I fully support her on that aspect. But look at who she's working with using Fidelis Government Relations. She's working with Sheikh Ubaid. Sheikh Ubaid is connected to Islamic Circle of North America. Islamic Circle of North America is an organization that is connected to Jamaat-e-Islami. Jamaat-e-Islami is an organization that has provided a lot of recruits to ISIS. ISIS has killed a lot of people in the Middle East who are non-Islamic, primarily Yazidis and Assyrian Christians. So you see how Nadine Menza on one hand is a spokesperson for the rights of these communities, and on the other hand, through government lobbying firms that are working to influence governments, she's actually in some ways getting resources from Islamist groups that are actually doing the exact thing that she's opposing. So you see a pattern here, and you see a pattern same with Anurima Bhargava. She's known to be speaking at events being organized by Indian American Muslim Council. And
And she has shared, Usada, correct me if I'm wrong, but hasn't she shared a stage with Ghulam Nabi Faye in past?
I'm personally not fully aware of that. She has shared a stage with.
That's what I thought she has, but I'm not.
Yeah,
I
because I don't have it on my fingertip. I don't want to make that allegation, and I don't think she's even listening to us. But have
you never
somebody?
know. Everyone is listening to us, Utsada. Don't underestimate yourself. Come on.
No, yeah. So, but I will not say that I know that she has shared a stage with the known Pakistani, spy who was in prison. But I know for sure that she has shared stage with individuals and organizations that are connected to Islamic Circle of North America, which in turn is connected to Jamaat-e-Islami and Lashkar-e-Taiba, which is a terrorist organization, globally designated terrorist organization. So, imagine, if anybody from the Hindu community goes to Anurima Bhargava and asks her to come for a Hindu event, imagine the hue and cry, oh my God, the Hindus are trying to influence her, even if it's like a religious festival, Ram Navami or Dashera or Diwali. Imagine the outrage out there.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we invite Anurima Bhargava to the next Hindu Lounge?
Well, sure.
And no, I think she'll be fair if she has taken up a speaking engagement with some of the Islamic groups. I'm sure that she'll jump at the opportunity to talk to a genuine Hindu group. I have full faith in that, don't you?
See, you assume that she has a genuine Hindu, whatever that means, disposition herself, and would be favorably disposed towards, just because somebody, and this is what I keep saying to a lot of people in America, and especially people who analyze and look at geopolitics and politics within America, that just because somebody has a Hindu sounding name doesn't mean that the person is a Hindu or has a favorable disposition towards Hindus. The day is not far when an entire generation, given the amount of hatred that is being created in American society targeting Hindus, including through, primary influencers like USCIRF as well as New York Times and what, you will have a generation of Hindus who will have Hindu sounding names, but who will detest Hindus because they will be living in a propaganda world where they have been taught to dislike Hindus. And I'm not sure where Arunima stands on this, but given by her actions so far in USCIRF and the level of knowledge she has displayed, I have a feeling she will be more likely in that category.
No. She's going to come to our show next week. We are going to extend her an invitation. She's going to come here, and I think
Don't you have members of the Hindu American communities that you know who already know her or who are like know her
I don't know.
parents?
I have to look at my database and find out who I know that's common. But Utsada, it's not just about India and Hindus in America, right? We have people like Harsh Mandar here. I mean, don't you have anything good to say about Harsh Mandar?
See, Harsh Mandar, people like Harsh Mandar, in my opinion, and that is true about many people in this list that you see here.
And what did Harsh Mandar say during the CA rioting that was going on?
Well, there are people like Harsh Mandar, there are people like Ajit Sahi, who are in some ways consultants at advisory members. They have lost track of the insider outsider narrative because of their personal animosity towards the ruling party in India and because of their personal hatred for the Prime Minister of India,
No,
based
the
on
personal
their.
hatred for Hindus, not
That is
let's
true.
not
That is
say
true.
Prime Minister and ruling party. They have personal hatred towards Hindus.
Hindus.
Okay, now
True,
we
true.
can go
And
forward.
that makes them vulnerable. I mean, I'm pretty sure Harshmandan understands what Lashkar-e-Toiba is doing or ICNA is doing there, or what many of these free Kashmir groups are doing. But they just have so much hatred in them, and that has been institutionalized by vested interests so much that they will go and support anyway. Tomorrow, if ISIS attacks India and declares a war on India, I'm pretty sure they will write an article trying to justify that in
Yeah,
some ways. So,
and so
that's the level of, inside loss of insider outsider understanding that has happened. Historically, it has happened throughout and to a lot of people in the Hindu community. I mean, there are phrases like, blaming somebody as being a Jai Chand. So, that comes from a historical perspective.
so that I go back to what is the impact, right? One of my high school friends contacted me yesterday, and he said that, hey, what is going on with all these newspaper reports and which are blatantly anti-Hindu, which are anti-Indian, and why is all this coming? Uh, and he said that, look, I mean, this is having a lot of impact on the second generation Hindus because they don't have the kind of background on Indian politics. They don't have the kind of historic background about what has happened to Hindus throughout the history, and it's really impacting them. And he asked me, why is this happening? And I just took this particular picture from this info lab that we have been talking about, and I sent it to him. And he said, I had no clue that this conspiracy is this deep. And look, we are not conspiracy theorists. This is all verifiable fact. And here there is information available for taking that anyone can take a look at it in one glance, and they'll see why Hindus have suffered this bad press and bad report cards, if you will, from agencies like USCIRF. It is it is really an attempt uh, to marginalize Hindus in America, along with all the other attempts. I mean, there is a legislation being proposed in the state of New Jersey to designate the sacred swastika uh, as a symbol of hate, which other states tried, like New York and Maryland, and failed. But this goes a step further and says displaying of swastika would be a criminal act, a symbol, a sacred symbol that is 7,000 years old. We talked about it a lot in past. And this sacred symbol, which is in every Hindu home, which is in every Hindu temple, a Jain temple, a Sikh temple, a Buddhist temple, still revered by 3 to 4 billion people in the world, and you display it in your car, and you display it in your house, and you display it in your temple, and all of a sudden you are a criminal in the state of New Jersey. Now, I don't think that it will ever stand the scrutiny of law. It is blatantly against First Amendment. But the fact that somebody actually thinks about bringing it up as a formal resolution or a formal legislation in state of New Jersey shows you how much hatred there is towards people of dharmic faith. You take that and you combine it with all the caste, and we talked about it in past, all the caste resolutions that are coming up, and there's one coming up in for discussion in Santa Clara Human Rights Commission this week on 29th. And by the way, all those people who are listening to this show who are in Santa Clara County in California, please do uh, go to our website, get information. We'll put it up there by end of tomorrow today, and dial in and make sure that you express your views. These are the kinds of this is the uh, this is all across. If you take a look at the the farmers agitation, or you take a look at all the anti-CA things that have nothing to do with American Hindus, and being taken up as sticks to beat up American Hindus with. And I think this is really, this diagram that we displayed is really behind a lot of the activities that are going on, which are blatantly against Hindus. What do you think,
So
Utsala?
I agree with you, and that's why I said that this is one more attempt at othering the Hindu American community. In this case, as we saw with the diagram, that it's a select group of Christian activists uh, and a select group of Islamists, uh, in this case, sharing a common agenda against Hindus. So that is something very interesting in this particular that you can gather from the USCIRF report. And I think what is very important is that we should, Ajay bhai, we should mention the email address, mention the web address of the Disinfo Lab report, because one of the complaints that our community always has, the American Hindu community has, is that, oh, we don't have good research on the activities and the actions of those that are targeting us. We need to have professional research being done on these issues. So if those complaints exist, this report, and I think we should put it on our Facebook page or wherever we are broadcasting right now, the Disinfo Lab report needs to be used as a reference material, because anything and everything that you wanted to know about these issues and the connections of those behind this, whether it is on the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, which is another issue that Hindus get targeted on, whether it is the issue of CAA, which is a false, narrative that is used to target Hindus. It's actually, this report actually looks really deep into those who are working in America on those issues, targeting Hindus and how they are doing it. So it's important that people just go to look up Disinfo Lab on Twitter and Facebook, and it's there. They have played it very prominently. It's a good reference material.
So I want to highlight a few things, right? I think, and those are the kinds of things that really bothered me. I I want to share this. So I hope you can see the report. Do you see the USCIRF report that I'm sharing right now? You're on mute, Utsada.
No, I see the PowerPoint with the Hindu Post material on.
Okay. Hold on. I shared a wrong screen. Let me share this other screen with you with the USCIRF report, and I want to ask. I want to show you then. Uh, so here is the actual, and I urge everyone to actually go and read this in a USCIRF report. Just Google it, and we'll also put it up on our website. Look at the kind of stuff that they have put here. Another set of, for example, here they've said, and you see yellow because I was searching for the word India, and you can see another set of policy raising significant concerns and too often resulting in violence are the effort to prohibit interfaith marriages or relationships using the false narrative of forced conversion. And then it says that in 2020, Uttar Pradesh, India's most populous state, passed an ordinance voiding any marriage conducted for the sole purpose of unlawful conversion or vice versa. And then it goes on to say that similar registrations were passed in other states like Madhya Pradesh, Haryana, Assam, Karnataka, whatever, right? Okay, keep this in mind. And now take a look at this particular news item that came last week. And this is what Uttar Pradesh government was trying to prevent. What do you see, Utsada? Here is a guy, and this is not the only example. These are the fraudulent marriages that take place. Um, and you can see here that a person, uh, you know, gives a false identity, takes on a false identity, uses a fake Hindu name, Ramesh, marries her and abandons her and her daughter for not converting. And if you look at the papers in India, there's at least one or two there's at least one report, if not more, every day or every couple of days, uh, of similar instances. Okay,
Correct. So,
that
so
is the kind of fraud the government of India, in order to protect the women who are being forced into this fraudulent marriage. So I would look at this as a compassionate pro women act, and people with the political agenda will make it into, oh, this is discriminating against Islam and Muslim, and so put it in the USCIRF report. How can a compassionate act of protecting women be put in the same category? And it applies to everyone. It applies to Islam, it applies to Hindus, it applies to Christians, it applies to everyone. Do not commit fraud in marriage. Why is this even a topic of discussion, Utsada?
well, it's a topic of discussion because this, you have IAMC lobbying with USCIRF and sitting together and making a report against India. That's why it is a topic of discussion. It's a topic of discussion because Islamic Circle of North America is having inputs in this report. Obviously, it's going to be a topic of discussion for USCIRF. But let me track back a little bit. And you mentioned this particular incident that happened in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh, and it happens throughout the massive country of India almost every day. What most people around the world, including Hindus who are born and brought up in America, don't understand and don't often recognize, actually even in Hindus from India don't sometimes recognize this, and this is the historical trauma that the Hindu community in the Indian subcontinent has faced for the last 1,000 years, and the social dynamics that comes out of that historical trauma of being colonized for close to 1,000 years. So those social dynamics still exist. It is also an outcome of that historical trauma that there are parts of the Indian subcontinent, including in India, which is a secular country with a significant Hindu majority so far. Even in that situation, there are parts of India where the lived experience of an average Hindu still continues to be that of a colonized, subjugated individual living through historical trauma. You go to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and you go to the Kashmir Valley, and the Hindu has that experience still. He cannot go and live there and go back to his own ancestral house. You go to some parts of the Kerala, which is at the southernmost part of India. There are entire areas of Kerala where a Hindu cannot even buy a property. So these lived experiences are never considered or never brought up in reports like those of USCIRF. And it is our responsibility, the responsibility of the American Hindu community, to first understand these lived experiences and bring about a conversation on it. Because it is very important in analyzing Indian laws and Indian postures towards many of these issues and where they're coming from. It's coming from a position of historical trauma of colonization and current lived experiences in many parts of India. You go to Assam and Bengal, and you will see entire villages where Hindus can't even build a temple, because again, they may be in good numbers in those places now, but they have a historical fear. They have a historical dynamic of relationship with other communities where they have been literally slaves of those communities for 800 years and have a negative lived experience even today. So that is very important, and I want our listeners to understand that and talk about it in the American context, talk about it to people like Anurima Bhargava and educate them. And I'm pretty sure somebody knows in VHP and knows her family and knows her probably. So this is important, and this is where I think you don't need lobbying firms. When you have truth on your side, you don't need the kind of lobbying firms that ICNA and IAMC have to hire to push their propaganda. In our case, we have the truth on our side.
Absolutely. So that I think I really think that this is the kind of advocacy that is a need of the hour. Um, and if we don't rise to the occasion, the future generations of Hindus in America uh, would have would have suffered immeasurable damage if we don't take care of this
Not
now.
just Hindus in America, as an extension, they will also be damaging future generations of Hindus in the entire world, because American Hindus have influence and power that is projected through America's geopolitical postures. So they are a critical player in global decision making on behalf of America. And that impacts Hindus in around the world. As you can see, Hindus in Bangladesh, Hindus in Nepal, Malaysia, Indonesia, Pakistan, Afghanistan. It impacts everybody, including Hindus in India.
Yep, yep. No, I agree with you. I just want to call out that Lalit Boraji called, and by the time, because our screen was fully shared, so by the time we noticed, we did miss his call. Lalit ji, if you are watching, still watching, and would like to participate, please do, click on the link and, join us again. We appreciate your joining. Vandana ji, thank you as always for your kind words, and Dhaval bhai, again, thank you for your kind words. Both of you give us a lot of encouragement, and we truly appreciate it. Um, and I want to, uh, move on to the next and our regularly scheduled three segments. So that before we close out, any final comments on the USCIRF report? I think we'll have a lot more to talk about on the USCIRF report. There are quite a few things. I mean, I think one of the things I should mention a couple of other things on the USCIRF report before we close it out. And let me just share my screen so that we have some we have a context of what we are talking about as we display. And these are the things that Hindus in America and other people who are watching do need to know. So let me point out a few things. So one of the things that they mention is FCRA regulations, and they say FCRA regulations are further stifling the civil society and forcing religious organizations and human rights organizations, including those advocating for religious freedom, to shut down. Amnesty International India closed the operation in October after authorities froze its bank account. We did a whole show on Amnesty International. Wasn't Amnesty International engaged in fraudulently sending the money to India through some shell organizations?
Absolutely, they were. And I think, it needs to be pointed out that, organizations like Amnesty, in many cases, uh, you know, eh, the overall posture of many of these organizations in over the last 15, 20 years have kind of exposed them as groups that are up for hire to push geopolitical objectives, under the garb of human rights. And it is a great disservice to the cause of human rights, because there was a time when many of these organizations actually did real human rights advocacy and support work. But over a period of time, especially in the last 15 years or so, like, uh, it has come out so many times, and social media has helped, because now you cannot control information anymore using mainstream outlets, that many of these organizations have too often been exposed as people and individuals and localized groups that are pushing somebody's agenda on issues. So I think Amnesty International did not do any service to the cause of human rights by doing unlawful activities in India, because of which they got kicked out. And it is unfortunate for the cause of human rights everywhere in the world, including in India.
Absolutely. I mean, when I was in college, I actually wrote a couple, in the newspaper, a regularly published daily newspaper. I wrote, uh, some articles which actually were praising Amnesty International for the work that Amnesty International used to do at one, and before they became as political as they've become now. And I still, I still think that they have an important role to play if they just get out of the political meddling that they try to do. So that I just I want to highlight a few things. These are really important, and I want you to comment on almost a dog whistle when someone says Dalit, Muslims, Christians, Adivasis, and other religious community. What is that dog whistle?
It's a dog whistle of go and hit the Hindus. that, that's the dog whistle, and this is the kind of propaganda that is now very common in America. And when you see these kinds of sentences, you kind of see the footprint of organizations like IAMC, uh, and you can see how their lobbying has actually brought out these particular phrases. It's literally sitting with a map on the table and say, hey, who all can we stack up against the Hindus here in India, and exploit any social fault line that has ever happened in the subcontinent. Let's make our list, and then work backwards from there to come up with phrases like this. And what these people probably don't know and don't want to talk about is that the Prime Minister of India is actually from one of the lowermost jatis that these guys probably consider as anti-Hindu and pretend to protect. The President of India is actually a Dalit. So, these kinds of narratives that they present, and, these guys will never talk about this, nor will people who follow and promote these reports within the Indian American community as well as in the media. They will never talk about it because it breaks up from their agenda, as I can call it.
And look, I mean, today there's a program, and I should plug this program. There is a program in that is organized by the VHPA Los Angeles chapter today, on to celebrate Ram Navami. And if you look at the life of Sri Ram, he lived in the forest for 14 years, and he interacted with all the communities that lived in forest, and he treated them as equal, even though he was a king in Ayodhya who was supposedly.
Ajay bhai, let me interrupt you here. And the reason I interrupt you is because when you bring up Bhagwan Shri Ram and events organized by Bhagwan Shri Ram on Bhagwan Shri Ram, as well as bring up Ramayana, whether it is the Valmiki Ramayana or the Ramcharitmanas or the multiple Ramayans you are entering a territory where these people have already shut their ear off. Because the people who write USCIRF IRF reports and the people who promote it and the people who in the media who talk about it actually do not consider Bhagwan Shri Ram as a relevant individual personality, deity, divinity of any value in their narrative building. So
so that a lot of it has to do.
You are speaking to the choir here, Ajay bhai. And I say this now because I want people who are listening to us to understand this, because I see this happening again and again in our communities. Like, we will bring up historical scriptures and this and that. These people don't care about these things.
No, they don't care. But I want so my audience is not those people.
Right.
My audience is people who are Hindus, who I would like to equip with knowledge and information, so that when they go to a neutral venue, they can make these points. So that it is, from the boatmen to Shabri to all the other people that Sri Ram interacted with in the jungle, in the forest, are all examples of the closeness and what we call in Hindi the word atmiyata. That means the familiarity, not just like not just a family type relationship, but something much deeper, right? Something that is at the level of closeness, at the level of soul. And these are the people that Sri Ram interacted as their equal. He didn't say that, oh, I'm a king of this big kingdom and you guys are just people living in forests. So, I'm going to, discriminate against you. I'm going to put you in a lower category or any of that. He treated them as equal and they treated him as equal. And when his need came to go and fight a demon Ravan, these are the people who stood by him because of this relationship. But Utsara, forget Sri Ram for a second. The person who wrote Ramayana, Valmiki, did not come from a privileged class. Okay, so there is this Hindu tradition which dates back thousands and thousands of years of treating people equally, and only people who are part of what we Hindus would call and people in India would call the Tukre Tukre gang or the Break India gang, who want to come up with as many divisions of the Hindu society as possible, would separate out all of these people like the Dalit and Muslim, Christian, Adivasis, other religious community. Because we have always believed that people who who embrace the dharmas, the various faiths that evolved in Bharat, or who adhere to the basic cultural ethos of Bharat, regardless of whether they are Muslims or Christians or whatever, they're all Hindus in our book. Our definition of Hindus is much broader and it's all inclusive.
How dare you get inclusive, Ajay bhai? How dare you get inclusive? You're spoiling the plans of these guys who are whole sole agenda here is to exploit every social, economic, linguistic, uh, skin color, eye color, hair color fault line that they can find and break you apart. And how dare you get inclusive on them? That is fascism, Ajay bhai.
Yeah, I guess so. And look, I mean, okay, let's move on a little bit. Look at this next line that I just highlighted here. Government action, including acquittal of all individuals accused of demolishing the Babri Mosque. First of all, there was no Babri Mosque. It was a temple that existed for thousands of years before Babur that came there. The people like Babur and his ilk came to India and demolished these historic mandirs and built whatever structures they wanted to build on top of it, some mosques, in order to make the point that now they have subjugated Hindus. In fact, they even left the stones and the pillars in place to make that point, right? And they left it as the monument to slavery, much like the statues that we had in America and in Europe commemorating the slave traders. Now, this structure, where no worship had taken place for hundreds of years, or at least over 150 years, for which the struggle to liberate that place had gone on for over 450 years, this structure was brought down, and there was a lawsuit against some of the people who were accused of demolishing this structure. The Supreme Court of India acquitted the people who were charged. Remember, any charge has to be proven in court of law. Even the most ardent opponent of India would say that the Supreme Court of India is an unblemished neutral entity for most part, for all parts, not most part. And nobody has ever accused the Supreme Court of being pro Hindu. And after looking at the evidence, the Supreme Court acquitted the people who were charged. Why would it be considered government action instead of a judicial decision rendered by the Supreme Court of India in India? In
Well,
that case,
to bring it
every Supreme Court decision in America a decision by US government, or is it an independent branch of the United States overall governance that makes the decision? This makes it sound like there was a political favoritism. This is a decision by Supreme Court of India.
well, as you know, it's at the least it's sloppy research. If you absolve these guys of all malintentions, agendas, narratives, geopolitical objectives, if you leave everything aside, at the least this is really poor research, because you will never ever in any media or any report say that the Supreme Court of the United States represents the government of the United States. It's not, or represents the president. The government is elected by the people. Supreme Court is an institution in India that is independent. In fact, it is more independent than even the American Supreme Court, because the justices in the Indian Supreme Court have absolutely no role from being, in getting selected from the elected government bodies from the parliament. The parliament doesn't play any role in it.
Yeah,
It's through an
actually,
electoral
unlike
college.
America,
In America, at least the House and the Senate
the
plays a
Senate,
role in
the Senate,
appointing the
yeah,
judges.
the Senate,
It's
Senate
more
does that,
connected
right?
in America
Appointments.
than in India. Even that connection is not there. It's by an electoral college where absolutely no elected official from any ruling
It's a
party.
collegium. It's a collegium of Supreme Court justices that pick the next justices.
Yes, yes.
And in America, it's the Senate. So there's actually a political appointment, whereas in India, it is not a political appointment. The collegium recommends to government the
Yes.
justices that government is generally rubber stamping them. And these are, so yeah,
So that shows at the least how much of sloppy research, because the reason there is sloppy research on this aspect is because it works with an agenda. So my point about this entire USCIRF report is it's not a report about what's happening. It's a report about looking for things to pretend what's happening. They already have the final objective declared and decided. They're just coming up with content to try to justify that. And
yeah, I mean, look, I mean they make nonsensical statements like most people who in Delhi, the anti-CAA violence, and they talk about the police singled out the Muslims. They don't talk about the fact that there were Molotov cocktails and other things being thrown from the rooftop at Hindu homes. And there was a police officer who was brutally murdered and cut into pieces and thrown into sewage. They don't talk about that, right? But they want to talk about, and they want to talk about how brutal the police were, and most of the people who were killed were Muslims, or Muslims were killed with impunity by Hindus. Actual fact, and we had the authors of the book who did research on Delhi riots, and the actual truth is completely different. But who bothers to look at the truth here? Because as you said, Utsoda, they start with this section. They say recommendations to US government. They start with that, and then they work their way backwards to fill in the blanks, right? And say designate India as a country of particular concern, impose sanctions on individuals and entities, advance the human rights and religious communities religious communities in India, condemn the ongoing religious freedom violation in support of religious organization. That means encourage more fraudulent money driven conversion in India. This is the conclusion that they wanted to have, and then they work their way backward.
agree. I completely agree.
And I don't want to go over all the details, but as you can see, they also talk about Jammu and Kashmir. Now this, I have to say, as much as we are over time, like we always are, I have to say this: Jammu and Kashmir, before the Article 370 was removed, was probably most oppressive, not probably, it was definitely the most oppressive uh, state, because they had their own kind of quasi constitution. It was the most oppressive state for Dalits, for Hindu minority, that includes Dalits, and women, right? Because they even had provisions where only certain communities, which they called caste, should be doing the cleaning job, street cleaning, sewage pickup jobs. Which other state in India has designated communities to do sewage pickup? Only Jammu and Kashmir. And you know what? And only Pakistan
So
and Bangladesh.
so what Article 370 did was basically legitimize discrimination, especially against the communities that USCIRF claims to speak for. So it's a paradoxical for them to actually say that removal of Article 370 was a bad thing, and then two paragraphs before that say that they speak for the women and the Dalit and the other uh, quote unquote marginalized community of the Indian subcontinent, and especially India. So that is another example of how they, not to mention LGBTQ community, because Article
That was
370,
outlawed.
when it was in when Article 370 was in place in Jammu and Kashmir, the LGBTQ community was officially discriminated against, and that was an outcome of Islamic narratives that were introduced using Article 370 for justifying those discriminations. Now, you don't see, I mean, if anything, USCIRF should be actually making India a country of particular you know love and affection for removing Article 370 and bringing about CAA, which, in if I were to judge by the standards that USCIRF claims to follow, it actually made the entire Indian subcontinent a better place for big sections of marginalized communities.
Yeah, you know, we can go on and on. I mean, there's just so much, so much bias in this report, and so much of Hindu hatred that is built into this report. And again, it makes absolutely no difference to people who live in India. I think this is meant to really uh, attack the Hindus who are living in America. This is meant for Hindus in America to basically disown their Hindu identity. Okay, that's the sole purpose of this report. And if it is reports like this that create hatred. I'd say this one more time. I said it in the beginning. I'll say it again now. These are the kinds of report that generate hatred for Hindus in America, and these are the kind of reports that lead to violence, either physical or mental violence against Hindus and discrimination against Hindus in America. And if another Hindu kid gets bullied in America, if another 7-Eleven worker or a motel worker gets attacked in America, the onus is on organizations like USCIRF, which have such close ties to all the Hindu hating forces in America. So, Utsada, with that, unless you have any final comments, we can go to our other, you know, other remaining, our key segments. You know, let's go to our key other segments that we usually do, right? So let's go to that. The first one is the Hindu Hindu Seva Act of the Week. Utsada, the Seva Act of the Week. Let me share my screen before I forget. So, Hindu Seva Act of the Week is. I should play this music, right? So the Hindu Seva Charity Act of the Week. There was a successful COVID-19 camp we talked about last time, but this time we want to talk about the fundraising efforts for COVID-19. The COVID-19 fundraising efforts are being done by a couple of organizations. VHP America, please go to vhp-america.org, click on the donate button and donate. Or you can go to our Facebook page and donate on our Facebook page, which is vhpamerica.org. vhp-america.org or vhp-america.org and click on the donate button for COVID-19 efforts in India. You can also donate to Seva International. They have a huge effort going on all across America to raise funds to send the oxygen concentrators, etc., to India. And that is Seva International. Please go to Seva International or VHP America and make a donation. It's a need of the hour, and we really urge you to make whatever small contribution that you can make. Every dollar counts. Please go and donate to the COVID-19 uh, fundraising efforts to donate money to India. Okay. So the Hindu good news of the week. And here is the drum roll.
Uh, Ajay bhai, I just wanted to add one more thing. That India is currently facing a massive COVID outbreak, surge literally in the second wave because of a triple mutant variety. So people who are actually in America who can donate, so please donate, because we are all praying and hoping that this will go away in a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of days, hopefully. But at this point of time, India needs help, and
Absolutely.
that's my appeal. So I just wanted to make sure that we make another pitch for it. VHP America, Seva International are working directly to help people in India as we speak.
Absolutely. Usada, I have to do the drum roll again because the drum
Yeah,
roll
my
effect went
apologies.
away.
I
So
just had to say it again.
I know, I know. So let's do the drum roll again. And good news of the week, Utsoda, is Nepal's Oli, Nepal's Oli, uses now Hindutva as a key agenda for the next election. Utsoda, this guy is a communist. He has
Well,
now discovered
nobody,
his.
Ajay bhai, the thing is, this is the reality of the world today. Nobody is a communist today anymore. I mean, you have China as a nationalist, ultra nationalist capitalist country calling itself a communist. I mean, even Raul Castro is not a communist anymore. So communism has given way to nationalism globally now, whether it is North Korea, China. In the case of China, it's even capitalism and nationalism working together. Both avowed enemies, both fundamentally avowed enemies of the communists. The entire communist movement is based on fighting nationalism and capitalism.
So that is the next step. Nepal becoming Hindu nation again, because really there's no Hindu country in the
Well,
world.
it needs to be seen. It's a good direction, that communist leaders in Nepal are seeing their future as in reviving Hindu dharma, which is their ancient tradition. And Nepal is beautiful country and has seen a lot because of what communism did to it in the last decade. A lot of tragedy, I must say. Uh, but here is a leaf that the Indian communists should take out of Nepal's playbook. Maybe the Indian communists will someday become Hindutva. I mean, there are tinges of that in Kerala because of the immense pressure they face from radical Islamists and the violence they face from them.
Yeah.
Maybe around India, you will see a revival of Hindu narratives in
Go.
communism, and it is important because at the end of the day, if communists in Indian subcontinent really want to speak for the subaltern community, as I say, there is no more a critical subaltern native community than the Hindu globally. So yeah, stand with the Hindus. You'll see it. You'll actually be helping people out here.
That is so well said, Utsala. I had to say that. I applaud Oli for discovering Hindutva, not just Hindu Dharma, Hindutva. Utsala, and with that, our favorite segment of the week, the Hindu phobe of the week. One of these days we should rename this to Hindu hater of the week. I don't know. So this is TMC, which is Trinamool Congress, Mahua Moitra. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. She is saying that Hindus wishing Hindus a happy new year, or wishes, or sending the wishes for New Year, is a sign of radicalization. So this is a tweet from her, and she's she's actually saying this. Woke up to see at BJP wishing people happy Hindu New Year. Radicalization is complete. And then tell us, the rest of it is something specific to Bengal, and you are an expert, obviously. So tell us why she is saying that this is not a new year for us, and it's a Poila Baishak for us, and things like that, right? Give us a bit of context. And who is this person anyway? Why does she even matter?
So Mahua Moitra is a is a politician. She's a politician, a young, well, quote unquote, well educated, Western educated politician who is in the Trinamool Congress, which is a regional party in Eastern India, has ruled Bengal, started off as a counter narrative to Marxism through their leader, Mamata Banerjee, but then kind of became the same and if not more. So they are like a personality cult-led Marxist movement in Bengal, which is the ruling party in that state. And she is a leader, a young leader of that party. But what this statement points out is that it brings two things in mind for me. It points out the highly colonized mind of the Western educated Indians who are not in the Hindutva movement. She's ashamed of the fact that Hindus are wishing each other, including Bengalis, are wishing each other on their New Year, which, by the way, Buddhists also do. It was the same day, as do Yazidis. It's an old calendar that continues, following the spring as the point of the beginning of the year, which was how it was done traditionally before the Christian calendar was imposed on the rest of the world. So, she's literally exhibiting her colonized mind in this case. And here is the other thing. I think she qualifies to be a commissioner for USCIRF now. I think USCIRF, after Arunima Bhargava's term is over, I think they should approach her. She probably is a green card holder. I don't know if she's a US citizen. She's in the parliament, maybe not a US citizen, but maybe she should think about getting US citizenship and coming to USCIRF. She is the kind of leader that USCIRF is looking for.
And a perfect fit. So that was so well said. So with that, I think let's just nominate her. I mean, let's go to our favorite congressperson or senator like Bob Mendes, whose name actually appears on the USCIRF report, and highly recommend Mahua Moitra to USCIRF.
Bob Menendez, yeah, Bob Menendez is, he's,
yeah, make this complete. I mean, why leave out someone? Have two Hindu sounding names on the commission and give it even more legitimacy.
Correct. But the fact that it also exhibits how little these people know about all these issues and about the calendars and about their own civilization. It's really, really sad how little these people know. So,
well, this is the 75 years of education, history education that came out of Jawaharlal Nehru University. So
not just Jawaharlal. I mean, Jawaharlal Nehru University gets a bad name and as being the representative because it's in Delhi. But there are universities and colleges around India with an institutionalized educational curriculum that literally promotes, this kind of ignorance.
Yeah. All right. So with that, let's come to let me get this out of this so we can formally say, so that thank you very much. For those who joined us, we want to really, really thank you for joining us. So Bandhaji, as always, thank you very much for joining and your kind words. Brij Kumar Borpukhanji, thank you for joining. Lalitji, thank you for joining. Dholbhai, thank you for joining. And all the people who have joined. I think we will hit with Tag TV. We are always on Tag TV, a few days delayed, 3 to 4 days delayed. So all the people who are watching us on Tag TV, thank you very much for tuning in. This is Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact, which is a policy research and advocacy initiative of World Hindu Council of America, with Utsav Chakravarti, who is the executive director of Hindu Pact. I am Ajay Shah. I'm the president of VHPA. We come live every Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern, and we just chat about contemporary American Hindu issues. And as always, we have a special tune that is created just for this particular episode. Every week we get a special tune created just for that particular episode by a group, Decibels. And as we go, I will play the tune by Decibel, and please listen in. It's an awesome tune created just for this particular episode of the Hindu Lounge. With that, thank you and namaste.
Thank you and namaste, everybody. And please give us your ideas and thoughts about our show.
Thank you.